So this is a C-96 Aero, and this is kind of a continuous duty oil filled engine, right?
Yeah.
Meaning it is designed to run pretty much 24/7. Single cylinder. Originally, we thought maybe it was a hit and miss engine, but if it were a true hit and miss engine, the intake valve would be controlled by the differential in pressure in the cylinder.
When the piston comes down.
Right.
The vacuum of the piston coming down would pull the valve open and pull in the fresh charge.
Right. So considering there's wear on this tip and wear on that tip, I'm assuming, and 2 slots for, I'm assuming a push rod.
Yeah.
I'd say there's a rocker arm acting on that too.
And that's way too stiff a spring on there
to be
just pulled open by the vacuum.
Even if the cylinder
is that big. How
many diameter is that?
How many diameter? Let me check how many diameters it is.
How many inch diameter is that? So that cylinder
7
is
inch.
7 inch.
Maybe a little bit better.
That's a big.
Yeah,
that'd be a big piston.
Probably 7 1/4 looks like.
So we don't have a full view of the engine because obviously we just have the head here, but we might try to run out.
Yeah, we need
sneak into the oil field somewhere.
We need to drive out here to the oil field and just kind of cruise around, see if we can find one of these.
We did manage to find this footage from an undisclosed location filmed by an undisclosed boomer of a pump jack on an oil well, this one being operated by a larger version of the engine shown in this video. Not every well has a pump jack, but if the well has insufficient bottom hole pressure to push the liquid to the surface of the earth, a pump jack is used to pump the oil out of the ground. Some are operated by electric motors, although many are off-grid and therefore operate on internal combustion engines fueled by natural gas produced by the wells. Depending on the size of the pump jack, they can produce anywhere in the range of 1 to 10 gallons of liquid with each stroke. Anywho, it's an interesting piece of machinery that you may or may not have seen before, and regardless of if you've seen one, you're almost certainly a direct or indirect consumer of the resources produced by them.
Let's tear it down. One thing we already see. Is that supposed to be like that?
No, I don't think there's supposed to be quite that much valve to guide clearance.
So what happened on that? Is that the intake or exhaust?
That's the exhaust, I think, the way it looks. And the other thing, look at the spring. See how the tight wound coils are up here at the top? Somebody has had this apart sometime, or whoever put it together didn't understand that the tightly wound coils need to go next to the head where the heat is.
Okay.
So I don't think that's what caused the guide to go bad, but it's definitely not the right way to make the spring last.
What do you see on that end?
Well, I was just kind of feeling the guide on that one. That one is not too bad.
That's the one that's completely wiped out on the top? Oh, no, it's not.
No.
Okay.
No.
I was like, what are you talking about?
And that has a hole through it, but there's no pin in it.
Yeah.
Now, looking at our new parts, looks like both springs are the same.
Yeah.
But these old parts, I'm going to say that spring when it was new matched these, but that one certainly doesn't.
Huh.
That is considerably shorter and with the tightly wound coils.
And the tightly wound coils was on the janky valve?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The top side, that guide is completely wiped.
Well, what's crazy, this is a single cylinder engine and it can still run.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't running very well, but it was running. It didn't get that way by itself.
What kind of flywheel of these? I bet they got a pretty big flywheel on them too.
I'm sure. Did you show the other side of this?
Not yet. Yeah, that's not quite what you typically want to see.
No. Yeah, that is unreal.
This is running on natural gas out of the ground?
Yeah, this is running on raw natural gas, wellhead gas, coming right out of the ground. A little different than we normally see on an automotive engine. the electrode there comes up to the side of the center portion as opposed to going over it.
So what do you typically see different on an oil field engine like this that's running on natural gas straight out of the ground compared to...
I see what we've got right here.
Okay.
Extreme amounts of carbon. I mean, when was the last time you tore down a car engine that had been running on unleaded fuel that had virtually any carbon in it, let alone this huge amount?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at it from the side here, it's built up 1/8 of an inch thick above the head gasket surface there.
Do we have any idea how many hours are on this?
No, I don't know anything about it.
But running 24/7.
Yeah, it adds up fast.
Yeah.
And running that raw natural gas like that, there's no additives, no lubrication. It's cooked on oil, and it's the garbage out of the fuel they're running it on.
Yeah, I guess it probably had...
There it goes. Look at that.
It was probably blowing compression up through.
And how worn the valve face is. It's just kind of all rounded off from just kind of finding its way into the valve seat. You can visibly see the...
Visibly see, as opposed to not visibly seeing?
well, I mean, you can see how egg-shaped that guide is. It is almost worn into the casting of the head.
Yeah.
I hope it's not.
Hopefully it's not, and hopefully
Yeah.
we can get it
Yeah.
out.
I think we probably should try to drive those out right now
Okay.
before we put this in the oven and bake it. What are you writing me up for this time? What do you mean I didn't cut the seats right? Well, maybe you should do it yourself, Mr. Know-It-All.
As our fans know, we're a bunch of dog lovers here in the shop. When I'm out on vacation, I know I can count on our shop dog, Augie, to keep the cleaning guy on task, even if he can get a little gruff. Get it? Gruff! Anyways, I can't think of a better way to show my appreciation for this help than to provide him with a healthy and delicious diet. That's where today's sponsor, Sundays for Dogs, steps in to help. Sundays is first and foremost healthy. The company was co-founded by Dr. Tori Waxman, a practicing veterinarian, and their dog food is made from a short list of human-grade ingredients containing 90% meat, 10% vegetables, and 0% synthetic ingredients. That's definitely better than Dad gets when he goes on a fast food run, since he honestly can't cook anything. Not only that, but Sundays is easy to store and serve, unlike others in the healthy dog food market. It's easy to store because it doesn't require refrigeration due to the air drying process that Sundays uses, and in a busy shop like ours, you can imagine that storage space is a hot commodity. Second, it's easy to serve because it doesn't require preparation. For instance, when you're in a hurry to get to the parts store before it closes after work, you can just pour, serve, and run out the door. As you saw there, one of our other dogs, Luna, just loves this stuff, and it's not just for the taste, but for the health benefits too. Dog parents report noticeable health improvements in their pups, including softer fur, fresher breath, better poops, and more energy when switching to Sundays. We've definitely noticed an improvement in Augie's attentiveness when he's helping around the shop. And another great thing about Sundays is that every order ships right to your door, so you'll never have to worry about running out of food again. Being in rural Colorado, this is a big help for us because we'd have to make a special trip if we forgot to get dog food the last time we were in town. We feel great when our doggos are feeling great, so if you're ready to help your furry friends feel better and feed them quality food they deserve, use our link sundaysfordogs.com/JimsAuto or use Jim's Auto at checkout for 50% off your first order. That's sundaysfordogs.com/JimsAuto or Jim's Auto at checkout for 50% off your first order of Sunday's dog food. Now let's get back to what's going on here in the shop.
That step on there is keep it from coming through this way.
So it is bigger on the top side?
Yeah.
It is. So we have to drive that way.
Yeah. Look how thick this is.
Yeah.
That's probably 3/4 of an inch thick. There's a lot of cast iron in this. This valve guide's pretty good shape. here yet. And then look at this one. It is all but worn clear through the side.
Do we need to pull this stud? Oh,
You don't know your own strength.
I know.
Yeah, it's going to move real easy. That's always good when they come out like that. Look at all the,
Yeah.
it's just nasty everywhere. Okay, safety squints. Yeah, it's coming out real easy.
Good.
With that side of that worn the way it was, it probably relieved a lot of the pressure on it.
Wasn't any press.
But you can see how it's blue from the heat. And if they'd have run that any longer, they'd have ruined the head itself. Yeah, both ends of that guide. And actually, it's not like it's worn real bad on this end on that side and bad on this side over here. It's pretty much all on that side there, top to bottom. Well, if this head does lay down horizontally, would gravity have done that?
We've also had them where the seat wore out and the valve was wearing into the head, but
Yeah.
it doesn't look like we're there yet here.
Well, they have such a big valve seat. Grab one of those over there. Let's show them.
They're not that thick though,
Not
actually.
as thick as I thought they were.
So maybe
They're very deep. This may very well be into the casting.
Uh-oh. Let's bake it, clean it up, make it look like a brand new casting, and then we'll have to get it on the Surdy and see. So the oven ran overnight, and hopefully at this point, any of that grease that was on this is baked completely dry. So we've got the head all blasted, but I see at least one crack. So we'll have to evaluate how bad that is, as well as that wear in the valve seat on that valve that was so worn out. Over time, that valve has actually done a little bit of damage to the casting around the seat, because it basically just beat out the seat, and then as that guide got more and more worn, it started actually beating into the casting of the cylinder head as the valve opened and closed. Let's Magnaflux it real quick, look at that crack, then we'll pull the seats out, then maybe we'll Magnaflux it again and see what it looks like. Okay. And that one's pretty good size.
Yeah.
So let me pull the seats out real quick. So you think the last guy screwed this bore up?
Yeah. I think it probably needed some serious work the last time, and they just followed it.
Okay, so it's been at least a month, if not two, since the last clip I recorded on this. Customer fell off the face of the earth for a couple months.
Yeah.
At least a month, maybe even two. I don't remember exactly.
Well, I think this started in July, and it's now, what
Dang
month
near
is it?
October.
September, almost October. It's been laying here for a while.
It's kind of hard because the chamber is
It's
3
deep.
inches, 4 inches deep. So we've got not a huge crack, but not a small crack either.
No.
And the bore of that is all chewed up. This is the side that it dang near the valve guide was so worn out it almost chewed through the guide.
It was just through the guide, but not far enough to get into the head yet.
And this chamfer up here is not supposed to be there. That's from the valve wobbling around and eating away the casting.
Wobbling beyond the valve seat that was in there.
So what's the concern with that crack there?
Well, I'm not real concerned with that crack. That is kind of like a heat crack, little heat check crack. It's not really a crack that I would consider goes through into the water jacket or anything. It could eventually, but the seat we're going to put in there, and we'll show you that, will probably cut out almost all of that cracked area.
Okay.
So we should be able to clean that all up. But you can see down in here, there's not even any step at the bottom for the seat to sit against.
Yeah, the counter bore is all chewed up.
Yeah, chewed up, broken away. It's just about the worst shape you could ever imagine for a valve seat to go back in.
As bad as it could be without it having
having
a catastrophic failure.
Yeah, without it having fallen out, it's about as bad as it can be.
One of the first things we notice is we have these two, what seem to be identical valve seats, two identical valves, identical guides, identical springs, but we have a little short spring over here that was on there.
Yeah.
So at first we thought, oh, well, they gave us the wrong parts or something.
Yeah, at first when I looked at this, I thought, yeah, we got the wrong stuff here, because this is a spring that I thought was designed this way and wound tighter on one end.
We're thinking there's a possibility that the exhaust gas that was leaking up through that guide towards the spring, maybe it got that hot enough that it did just gradually kind of collapse. Because we counted the coils, and it's the exact same number of coils on both.
Right.
And
the replacement parts they got us, the springs match. There's no difference between them.
So, I don't know. Maybe some commenters will have some insight there.
It's either an upgrade on the parts, or this here used to look the same.
The only other thing is these are the valve seats we were provided. Because of how damaged this bore is, we're going to have to go to an oversized seat here. But on this side, it has this little short counter bore. That's obviously not the right valve seat for that.
No, and it's not even the right diameter. So I'm guessing in a prior life, when this head was rebuilt, I almost wonder if on the intake side there was probably no seat from the factory. It's probably just ground right into the head. But the last guy that worked on this put their own seat in there, but it does not match the replacement seat that they got us now. We did have a seat special made for us that will be slightly oversized from that one, because when I measured this hole is not as round as I would like it to be. So rather than try to get a seat in there and have trouble, we just went to a oversize that will somewhat match what the last guy did, but give us an oversize so we can get the proper press fit. And then on the exhaust side, we're really doing something special there. Since the lip in the bottom is virtually gone, there's nothing for that seat to sit against, and it's worn beyond the seat here at the top. We had a stepped seat made. So we can do a stepped counter bore in there, drop that down in, and it'll actually ride on this edge here to keep it from dropping on down through. This extra width on the top will take care of where this is worn real bad here beyond the seat, and it'll also get out there and take care of a little bit more of that crack.
But it's going to be a little bit more complicated. That's a couple more cuts than we normally have to make putting a seat in, but it's what you got to do.
Yeah, and be complicated in the fact that we have to keep both of the bores
concentric.
The upper part that's larger and the lower part that's a little bit smaller have to be perfectly concentric with each other. The last time these guides were put in, evidently they felt like this guide didn't fit as tight as it should, so somebody put a few little center punch pip marks on there, try to hold it a little bit tighter. And what did you find when you measured this?
Well, I set up the bore gauge here. 0 is the exact diameter of the valve guide here. So what you're showing there is actually in the realm of 2+ thousandths clearance.
That's not good.
Because that's a 10th gauge, so 10, 20,
Yeah, depending where we measure at. Is it that way all the way up and down?
No, there's it kind of shifts depending on which side you're on. But that being said, like, they don't drop right in.
Well, I think they must be a little bit out of round.
Could be.
Yeah, because it will not just fall in like you would think it would. Either one. Well, at the very, very top here.
It actually might be.
Yeah, there's some press fit there, but as you get down in here, it's really all over the place. I really wish we had some oversized valve guides, but we don't have. So I think what we best do with these, and I have done this before and had good luck with it. I have this simple little tool here. It actually looks like a pipe cutter, but it has a knurling wheel on it. And we can set these up and knurl the outside of that valve guide, expand it just a little bit, and then we'll put them in with some retaining compound along with that. And I think we'll have success with that. Okay, let's see if we can use this knurling tool here, maybe make it go a little bit easier by chucking this up in the crank grinder vise.
I don't know if I've heard anyone call a chuck a vise.
What?
He called it the crank grinder vise.
Oh, excuse me. The wrong words came out. Do we need to start over?
No.
Sorry, crank grinder chuck. But anyway, right now I'm about 876 thousandths. And oil my tool. Is that lunchtime?
Yep, lunch is ready. Thought maybe it was going to walk itself into the chuck instead of off.
Well, that's what I was worried about at first there. It's displacing material, taking the material that it presses out of where it presses a little groove in, and it's bringing it out to
Raising
expand
it.
that. Yeah.
So here's my thought process. When we combine that with retaining compound, the retaining compound will actually sit in the lower areas, and then the higher areas, hopefully, the press.
Hopefully you actually have metal-to-metal contact. Is it okay to go over that a second time?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I added about 1/1000 and a half. Let's see if we can add just a little bit more.
But believe it or not, this is not what they refer to when they say they knurled the guides.
No, they were talking about doing the inside. That got us about probably close to 3 thousandths from where it was originally. I think that's a good place to stop.
How do you think this fares compared to taking a center punch and putting a few pips in it?
I think this is probably a whole lot better than just a center punch on there. But you know what? You do what you got to do with what you've got to work with.
That guide did not come out.
No,
the last time.
It was fine. It was in there.
There's just better ways to do things.
Yeah. Let's go over that one more time. Let's see what that'll do for us. And let's coat the inside of the head here.
And it's nice the guides press up against the shoulder, so...
Yeah, so it makes it real easy to give them the right depth because they have the shoulder. Plus, when it's in the engine, if they were to come loose, they can't ever slide down into the combustion chamber side anyway. Okay, we've got good coating on both guides. We look straight.
Now it is.
Okay, let's go over to the press.
Sounds tight enough.
Yeah, I think they're going more than tight enough. Ah, there went the hammer.
That head is right in the realm of small enough you think you can carry it, but big enough that you really probably should use the hoist.
Well, that's it. It looks small enough to carry, but it doesn't feel small enough.
Seemed like it went plenty tight.
That felt pretty good going in. There it is. That ain't going nowhere.
Say it probably looks about like it's supposed to, don't it?
Yeah, I think so.
What's the compression ratio on a natural gas motor like this? Do you know?
I honestly don't know, but I'm guessing it's very low. So this is our bushing that we're going to have to put in. There we go. That we got to put in those to make our pilot fit.
So we would have had to buy a custom Surdy pilot that is the diameter of this, because it's kind of it's not a size that they just have off the shelf, and would have been several $100s, I'm sure.
So instead, I took a valve guide that had an inside diameter that was compatible with pilot we already have, and I set it up in the crank grinder and ground this area down to make a bushing to go in here, so that now we can put our pilot inside that and do the valve seat work.
We don't really have specs on this, do we?
No, I was not able to find much for specs on it.
So we're pretty much going off experience and feel.
I'll go look it up again and see what we can find. I may want to run a ream or a hone through there just a little bit to knock the high spots off.
So you're just using one of the pin hone mandrels to kind of by hand
just
run it real quick to take any high spots. Now our bushing fits nice.
Yeah. Valve feels nice. Maximum permissible RPM 600. That's just idle speed. That's a low idle speed for a car engine. Maximum rating for pumping horsepower 19, 14.2 kilowatts. Gives valve timing specs, torque specs, shipping weight 2,790 pounds for the complete engine.
But it's a single cylinder.
But it's a single cylinder engine and only 19 horsepower.
Huh.
But here's what I'm kind of surprised at is the oil quantity. It only holds, says 11 plus quarts of oil. I'd have thought an engine like this would have had 11 gallons of oil in it. So I don't know if they have other means to keep an adequate supply for it or not.
Huh.
But I think we're ready to go over to the Surdy and let's see if we can
do some valve seat work.
Get those counter bores cut out and get the valve seats in there.
Okay. So we're going to start with the easy valve seat first. So 2.6875 is the size we're supposed to cut the hole to.
That'll leave us a 7/1000 press fit.
We have this nice little micrometer for setting up our cutters on the Surdy for cutting counter bores when we have to do an adjustable cutter like this. We're going to sneak up on it. And right now where this is reading, we're right at maybe just over 2.650. So let's cut a counter bore, then we'll measure it.
By doing it in two cuts, or at least two cuts sneaking up on it,
we'll know what our fudge factor needs to be for our final cut.
Yeah.
I'm going to start around 230 RPM.
That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, it touched over here. It hasn't really touched on that side. So I guess we can move out.
Move out and let's measure it.
Cut really nice.
What do you think you got?
Like 648 and 8. So we're, call it 1.5 thou smaller than what our mic over there reads.
It would make sense because when I checked the zero on it, it was like 1 to 2 bigger than the standard. That one, the big end there, you can't go down in. You have to measure up at the top of the hole.
We came up within like 3/10 of each other with two different measuring.
Two different methods.
I mean, but if we want to hit our 2.6875, we probably need to set it to 2.689.
Yeah.
Right above 2.689, it just barely slides past. Nice. Ten. That's kind of scary. So good news, our seat does not just fall straight into the bore, so it can't be too crazy too big.
I think you are exactly right.
Okay. What about the other problem here, which is this crack that I found?
It's strictly right here in the bottom of the seat and goes up the side here a little bit, but it does not come out on top. We can't detect.
And when we magnaflux, it doesn't really seem to extend much into the port.
Maybe a 1/16 of an inch there is all. Oh, man. I say we put our sealer on it and put the seat in, point it out to the customer. And as usual with something like this, if they want to use it, use it. If not, I guess they won't owe us anything. And if they put it on and use it and it gives trouble right away, we'll give them their money back on it. 567 on the smaller portion and 2.763 on this upper portion.
So we're shooting for 2.562 with our 1.5 thou fudge factor on our setting micrometer. We need to be 2.563 and a half. So that's what I've set the cutter up to, is about 2.563 and a half.
You need to cut 11/16 with the 687 thousandths.
Okay, 687.
Yeah.
Probably do the same thing here where I go down until we hear it touch and then turn it off, 0, and then cut our, 687? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
687.
Yeah.
Two. That just feels wrong to cut that deep.
Yeah, that's at least 2 times, if not 3 times deeper than most of our seats.
4, 6, 6, 8, 7, 3. I can see a nice flat counterbore towards this side where it's cleaned up. It's chipping away right there.
Well, I was going to say there's a bunch of loose stuff here. Yeah. That's whoops, knocked the light over. And that's why we're having to put that flange sleeve in, is because of the bottom of that, or flange seat, because the bottom of that is just virtually non-existent. Well, let's go 5 thousandths extra deep on that part right there, because there's nothing to support the seat anyway. And then we'll depend on that upper counterbore to support the seat.
Okay, that's 5.
Okay, call it.
So we've got this set up so that we'll have our 5 thou press on the top side of the flange too.
And then I also wanted to talk about that while you were readjusting this cutter, I went down inside and measured our bore for that seat, and it is just exactly where we wanted it to be.
So everything's
Everything's
working.
going well.
But anyway, at this point, if I cut till the DRO reads 0.5,
That's
should
where we want to be.
have our depth through.
So now when you go down into that guide, if it feels like it's tight, stop, because that tells us there's some cuttings in it. .4999. You missed it.
It doesn't even, it reads in 4/10 increments because the French think they need to program in millimeters and tenths of millimeters, and
okay,
then it converts. So it jumps
I'll
in
let
4/10,000th of an inch increments.
I'll let you off with your 1/10,000ths.
The valve seat has kind of a radius, in the transition from the smaller diameter to the flange there. So we're actually going to use like a 45-ish to put a little bit of a chamfer down there so that when we press this in, it's not riding on that radius.
Right. You went 20 thousandths, should be 25 wide. That'd be right.
How about that?
Nice. Oh yeah, I like that. All right, so came time. Nicholas had to go home for the day. He was working, you remember, here doing these valve seats. We didn't get them installed yet, but since he had to go home, he wants to come back tomorrow and finish the seats. But in the meantime, I'm going to take the head off. We'll move over to the surfacing machine, and I'll get the head gasket area all squared away on this. Yeah, that makes this look pretty good. Yeah, that makes this look real good. I put a piece of paper under my cutter. I can feel for when I'm close to being ready to touch off on the head. There it is. And yeah, 3 thousandths. I can just hear it touching. So let's take 3 off of that and see what we get. Let's see what that did for it. Look at there.
Kind of on the edge, but
Left just a teeny tiny spot over here that's cosmetically not clean. I think as far as functional, it would be fine. You can see these little spots here where the rods were that held the cores when this head was cast. So one there, there, and over here. Let's take 1 thousandths more. We'll slow it down, get us a little nicer finish. So now I want to take it off there, and we're going to try to turn it up 90 degrees from that, and I want to surface the exhaust manifold surface here. So I'm letting the head rest on the intake surface on the lower side of the head here against this parallel, and then I put a 90-degree plate in here that bolts up against the head gasket surface that I just got done, and that actually holds this side real close to being absolutely level, so I can come across here with the surfacer. But it does have a little glitch in it here. There's a bump here on the casting that I think is just some rough casting that was left over. I don't think that has to be there, but rather than cut something off that does have to be, I'm going to just surface across and stop just before I get to that. And I do have to stay with this and watch, make sure I stop before I get to that part right there. I'm going to call it right there. Look at that. I was going to shoot for 150. I hit 153. That's pretty good for just guessing when to shut the machine off. Okay. Surface where the gasket rides is completely clean. Now, one other thing I wanted to do was put a thread repair insert in this hole right there. I'm just going to take this loose, pick it up, and we'll go over on the old TCM guide machine, bolt this back down, and do that thread repair before we come back and flip the head and do the surface on the opposite side. Got the head all, this surface is perfectly level, perpendicular to the spindle. Okay, let me vacuum this up a little bit. Without moving anything here, take the drill bit out. We'll put the tap in, change the speed. Should have chamfered that while I was over in position, but we can come back to it here. So now put the helicoil on the installation tool. There it goes. That's the way it's supposed to work. So now we need to go back over to the surfacer, flip this head over, and we'll surface what is the intake manifold side. Looks like that surface is worse than I thought it was. Somebody has been banging around on there. Yeah, that'll get her. There's a couple little, not gonna hurt anything. So I'm gonna take this off here. I'll put it over on the bench, and tomorrow morning when Nicholas comes in, we'll pick up again, and I'm gonna let him drive the seats in and finish the seats. That's kind of his thing. That Surdy machine is his baby. He really likes that, and he's good with it, so I'm gonna let him take care of that.
That went actually felt really good.
I like where that's at.
Same thing, just a little sealer around the bottom. I was looking at some of the video. I think you could almost just barely see that crack on the intake side when we were magnafluxing it.
Oh yeah?
But I think we were so focused on the
other one, we overlooked it.
The other crack, it just didn't, it doesn't look super obvious, but
if you know it's there.
Yeah. You know, we put a lot of faith in a little bottle that says it'll retain stuff. So what, put that on like that, and then this
and then
over that?
on top of it, yeah. That sounded solid.
Let me give it one more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's solid.
So a lot of valve seats from, you know, when you get them from the factory, they already have, say, a 45-degree angle on them. We have a setting fixture that we could measure the valve and then set our tooling based off of, but it actually doesn't go big enough for these valves. So I'm actually just going to see on the intake seat here where the 45 that is currently cut is contacting the face of the valve. I have some color on the face of the valve here, and I'm just going to kind of spin it and see if we can see where the seat is currently touching the face, excuse me. And as you can see, it's it's kind of offset to the inside diameter of the valve, but it is on the face right now. But that's only what, 40 thousandths wide right now, maybe?
Yeah, it's pretty narrow.
And how wide are we making these?
I think we'll make them 80.
80? Both of them 80?
Yeah.
But that said, if we adjust our cutter to where it's just barely, the bottom angle of our cutter, because we have a 3-angle cutting insert, so it has, what is this? 60, 45, and then a 30. And I don't know if that's visible or not, but the 45 is 80 thousandths wide here. So this bottom section where the 60-degree bottom angle meets the seating angle, the 45-degree seating angle, we'll adjust that to match, I got to put our bushing in here, to match what this seat currently has, just as a starting point. And then we'll cut until we just barely see the top angle. And I think that might put us, we might still want to move a little bit further out on the valve face, but we'll do this as a starting point and see where it contacts.
Yeah. It's hard to see, huh?
You say I can't see it. So we're still pretty
Still got
far
ways
in.
to go. Yeah.
So how much out should I adjust that?
I'm going to say a minimum of half turn.
I'm going to color this. Okay, so there are 45 just skimmed
Okay.
up here. So I think it looks like it's going to be pretty good. I cannot see. Plenty there. I just didn't realize it. We could even push out more if we wanted to, but it's kind of right. I'd say that's pretty well centered.
If you're well centered, I'd leave it there because
Okay.
we're more after longevity than performance on this.
For sure. Okay, so you like where that's at?
Yeah, let me see it.
Can the camera see that? It's, I'd say right in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, you've nailed the face right in the middle with that.
So down here, we've got our 60 degree, which is what, 40 thou wide, you think, right now?
Probably.
Maybe. And then we have our 45 thousandths, 80 degree, our 80 thousandths, 45 degree seating angle. That's where the valve is actually making contact with the seat. The valve face is making contact with the seat. And then up here, I'd say we got 30 or 40 thousandths of our 30 degree top angle. It looks really nice. Suppose it'll vacuum. How much valve stem clearance do we actually have?
Well, let's try it without first. And then we'll put some lube on the stem to help seal up the stem and see what happens. That valve is 2.5-inch diameter. So that's a lot of seat area just in itself. Yeah, look at that.
So that's a pretty good seal considering there's obviously clearance between the valve stem and the valve guide.
Well, that's it. You've got a 9/16 diameter valve stem there. But there's a lot of area right there to leak. Should we put some lube on the stem and see if it changes it any? Yeah, we'll use ketchup for that.
These don't have a valve stem seal, do they?
No.
It definitely went up a little bit more. That's a pretty big port to pull vacuum in too.
Yeah, that is an exceptional seal. And you don't even have a spring on it yet.
Okay, so should we do the exact same thing on our other seat here?
See if you can match what you did there and we'll be done.
This seat, the ID doesn't fit as well as the intake side, so there's a little bit of that ledge left. So we're gonna port this thing. I'm gonna skip the polish step. No more ledge. Put our bushing in. Okay, so again, there's bottom, then our 80 thousandths wide 45, and then right there at the top, there's just probably half as much top angle as we ended up with on the intake side. And what we measured, we touched off here on the top of the seat. The exhausts were actually, it was 7 thousandths lower than the intake. So I think by having less top angle showing over here, where the valve actually seats is probably closer to being exactly the same.
Yeah.
Let's try to vacuum it. I'd say we're in the same ballpark.
Yes, looks just about like the other one did.
That looks better than the other one did.
And that's with no lubrication on the stem.
I mean, I think they're within reason of each other, but man, that looks great. Pop that off.
Off the top of that valve, I have to kind of play around there because the valves are convex shape on top. But if I get it pretty well zeroed there, and then I move over to the other valve, we are within, 2 or 3 thousandths of being the same height in the combustion chamber from the face of the valve. And I am very pleased with the way that came out. I would say we've either got them both right or both wrong. That's kind of the way this head's been the whole time through.
That's kind of the way life is. It's either right or it's wrong.
All right, so let's get this off here. We'll clean it up and we'll show you some of the assembly.
I think it looks a little different than when it came in.
Yeah. Well, it's been a while since I've seen it from when it first came in. We'll have to go back, look at the video ourselves, and see what it looked like when we started on it.
Did not look like this.
So again, we'll use ketchup on this. That seems to be our lube of choice. Okay, that's the intake valve, which is this side. And exhaust valve on this side. Normally on a cotter pin, one side is longer than the other, but I had trimmed these both off evenly.
explain this again. This is literally just a safety for if the top of the valve, the locks failed here, to keep that valve from dropping into or being sucked into the cylinder. Dropping in / being sucked into the cylinder.
Yes. There we go. Now I can maybe... There. And it's snug in there. You don't want to leave anything like that loose to where it can have any movement, because that valve going up and down, you wouldn't think so, but it will cause that to just wear itself out, bouncing around in there. But I think we've got those nice like they should be. If I push like that, can you drop the keepers in?
I'm gonna have to put this on a tripod.
Okay.
Is it in?
It is now.
Ooh, that could pinch.
But it didn't. One more time and we're done. Yeah. There we go. They're in.
Sounds good.
So now let's vacuum it again. I don't think it could get much better than that. Plus it holds.
And again, there's no valve stem seal, so it will suck the lube through that. Yeah. So the small amount of leak down that it is just as it's pulling through the clearance.
Pulling some through the valve.
Check the bottom
through
side.
The valve stem.
What side is that?
That's the intake side.
Maybe not quite as good, but
very close. I'm absolutely pleased with that.
Spin it around. Oh, a little funky compared to some of the stuff we normally work on.
Yeah, it's not quite a small block Chevrolet, is it?
No. But
it's not even a Ford or a Chrysler.
Yeah, it'd be fun to have a whole engine in just to see.
Just to have one.
Just to have one, yeah.
I always thought those Pumpjacks were so cool looking. I was telling Mom last night I wish the oil well in our place would have had one of those.
Yeah.
And she starts complaining about, oh no, I wouldn't want all that noise. And I'm like, it'd be worth it though, just for the fun of seeing it work all the time.
Awesome. Well, another one done.
Another one done. Let's call a customer, see if we can get it out of here.
Awesome. Like and
they
subscribe.
Have some money.
Yeah, they better have money. Oil company. I don't know.